Hi everyone, and welcome to the Long Distance Chronicles. My name is Maddie, my boyfriend's name is Chris, and he lives in New York. Today I'm going to be talking about my anxiety and depression story, so stay tuned. I'm also going to be cooking my dinner while I talk about this story. So real quick, I'm going to boil some water. So the story starts about 2 years ago. I was 22 years old and I was in my senior year of college. So it was in 2017. Crazy, I can't believe it's been 2 years already. Before things got rather severe or intense, I definitely thought that I had some anxiety and depression issues when I was younger. However, I really didn't want to believe that I did. I always kept telling myself, Maddie, you're fine. Nothing's wrong with you. You're not depressed. You're not anxious. Everyone goes through periods of sadness every once in a while, and everyone has anxiety. So I really thought nothing was wrong with me, and I was completely fine, and it was just a normal part of life. In about March of 2017, I graduated from college and I began my new life. It was a time of anxiety and a time of uncertainty. I, at the time, was really wanting to do nursing school. However, I had no idea what the future held for me. I didn't even know if I was going to get into nursing school or if I was even going to make it through my last prerequisites that I had to take at community college. I studied, as I mentioned before in a previous video, I studied psychology and Spanish in college. So I didn't have a lot of the, the chemistry, biology, anatomy requirements met, because that's not, those requirements are not necessarily part of the psychology and Spanish requirements. So I had to go back to school. I went to community college to take my chemistry, my nutrition, another psych course for development. They didn't offer that at my college. I had to take some anatomy and physiology and microbiology, which were courses they didn't really offer at my school. So there was a lot of apprehension and a lot of worry and uncertainty whether or not I was going to pass these courses. I was just so fearful, and I really didn't have a lot of friends in college. I had a really small social circle, really didn't have a circle at all. I had some roommate challenges, just not a very good environment to be in. The way that my life has played out, kind of looking back on it, really makes a lot of sense as to what it is. And all throughout my elementary years, I did have a group of friends, but I was kind of a hermit. I really liked being home. I was a homebody. I didn't really do partying. I would much prefer to just sit at home and watch a movie than go out dancing or go get drunk or whatever. And so that wasn't really my thing. And the more that I thought about it, I thought like, oh, I'm just introverted. I just like my quiet time. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, why am I not going out? Why don't I like to go out and socialize? And I think a lot of it had to do with fear of being judged, social anxiety, and just thinking like, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough. People think I'm weird. They're gonna think I'm weird if I go out. I'm gonna be judged. So I really isolated myself, and I really stayed kind of hidden and didn't really get to interact with people that much. And ultimately that just made things worse. And so it kind of set the stage for kind of a blossoming depression and anxiety is kind of where it looms. And I've had some other traumatic experiences in my life that's kind of played a part in that too. So I think my depression and anxiety is definitely a mix of chemical, but it's also environmental. And there's a whole bunch of studies that the gene environment factor and how the environment can really alter those chemical messages in the brain, and how prolonged stress and exposure to trauma can just really take a toll on one's brain and brain structure, and it ultimately leads people to depression and anxiety and a lot of other mental disorders, and drug abuse and addictions and all sorts of things. So anyway, don't need to get all technical there. I noticed for a long time that I just wasn't, I'd say normal, and I wasn't happy. And I think a lot of it also started with my mom entered into a kind of a toxic relationship, to say the least, and that really affected my mental health and really affected my security and my sense of safety and belonging at home. Not to mention there were some issues going on with my brother and just a lot of other family struggles that were happening. When I was little, when I was in high school and at 8th grade, I would write. I love to journal. I love to write, and so every night I would journal, and I would often talk about, you know, I wish I'd kill myself. I wish I would die. I don't want to be here anymore. The world would be so much better off without me. And I thought this was completely normal. I thought every child had these thoughts, and I thought that, you know, it's completely normal to be feeling like you want to die and you want to, you know, not be around, and you don't want to be here on this planet. Sorry, I'm cooking pasta. It was kind of boiling a little bit too much. I thought it was normal, but to some degree I also thought like maybe something's wrong with me. I'm psychotic, you know, all this kind of stuff, and I'm crazy. And I did think I had a problem, but I kept pushing it aside, and I was like, no, I'm fine. I keep getting out of it, and I'd get into these cycles of anxiety and then depression, and I'd come out of them. However, starting the year before my senior year of college, so the summer of 2016, I was very angry, and I don't know why. There was some kind of trigger or something, I think at a family event, that just really set me off, and I was chronically frustrated. I had so much anxiety and so much fear, and I couldn't really get out of it. I was just these spirals of constantly worrying. It got to a point where, you know, for the first semester I was able to kind of push it back. I was like, whatever, it's fine, it's nothing. Come March of 2017, and things just took a turn. I graduated from college, and I just, as I said before, a lot of uncertainty, and I got to the point where I couldn't even sit down and function and do my homework. I'd do my homework, and then I just would freak out about doing the homework. So say, for example, there was a family gathering on the weekend and I had a paper to do or homework. I would literally contemplate, and I could not make a decision for the life of me whether or not to go home to the family gathering or not. And instead of just sitting down and doing the homework and doing the studying, I freaked out and I couldn't make a decision. So one weekend, I had a test on a Monday. And it was a weekend where some family was coming into town, and I had the option to either stay at college or take the bus home. I, at the last minute, decided I wanted to go home. However, on the bus, I was determined to get off at every stopping point. I was like, I'm gonna get off here, I'm gonna get off here, I'm gonna get off here. And then when my dad picked me up at the train station, or the bus station, it's the same thing, I demanded to go back to college. And I was like, no, I'm not going to the family gathering. And he's like, well, too bad, I'm already here to pick you up. You traveled all this way, so you're going to this family gathering. And I literally was like in tears. I was sobbing. I was so anxious. He basically had to drag me into the car, but I was so anxious and so scared about attending this family gathering and so worried about homework that I just couldn't even enjoy myself. And I was so mad at myself for being anxious and like ruining my weekend. And I had a horrible time at the party because I was like mad at myself, and then I was mad because I had so much studying to do, and I was just so anxious and so worried I couldn't even enjoy the moment. And then I basically, the next day, I'm like, okay, something's wrong with me, and I came to a realization that, you know, I need help. And I was incredibly suicidal and didn't want to be there anymore, and I, you know, was just panicking and freaking out. I went back to school and I took the exam that I had to do, my nutrition exam, and I got like a 98, and that's when I knew that something was really wrong with me, because I barely studied for it because I was so anxious and so couldn't concentrate. I was like, my head was like spinning and I was out of control. Yet I did really well, and so I was like, okay, something's wrong with me. Like, why am I stressing out so much? I'd also have these moments of really lowness where I would be walking across campus and I just feel this like heavy dark cloud just kind of come over me, and I just like, I remember, you know, being at work and like I was an office assistant at a radio station and just trying to, you know, put on a smile and be happy. But then like I just remember the feeling of whenever they leave that my face would just drop and I was unhappy, and I'd walk home and I was just like, just so sad, and I would move a lot slower, and I just wasn't happy. I was hopeless. I had anhedonia, which is like a loss of interest in activities. I didn't want to do anything because nothing would make me feel good. I didn't want to watch TV. I didn't want to read. I didn't want to go for a walk. I was like freaking out. I didn't even want to walk to the grocery store. I was like so anxious. I didn't want to paint. Things that normally I like to do didn't interest me anymore. I didn't like walking. I didn't really like being with people because I was so anxious that I'm like, I can't even enjoy being with people. So what's the point of being with people if I can't even enjoy them? And then I get mad at myself, and it was just this whole cycle of, you know, anxious and then depressed, and you know, the suicidal thoughts, and me like, I'd be better off dead and I should go kill myself, and you know, what happens if I jump out of a train and you know go out and get hit by a car or jump off a bridge, and the thoughts just get increasingly more severe, and I even, you know, started Googling ways to kill yourself, and that's kind of was like a really big red flag. And so my mom actually, because I was kind of in like a crisis mode, and I was in a small city, so there's not a lot of psychiatric providers available, and it was really hard to get an opening. My dad and people were like, oh, just try breathing, just try yoga, just try relaxing, just go for a walk, just smell the flowers, and literally nothing was working. I needed something to calm me down. I needed a medication, and I'm really like, I don't like taking medication. I would have the worst migraines, and my mom would try to give me an Imitrex, which is like a migraine medication, for the longest time, or she'd try to give me an ibuprofen, and I refused. I was like, no, I'm not taking medication. I'm gonna drink water and go to sleep, and that's how I'm gonna cure this. So even back then, when I was like little, I was like, no medications, nothing at all. I don't even drink coffee. I don't drink alcohol. If I have to drink something, it's water or tea, and that's it. Occasionally juice and maybe soda sometimes, but I just really don't like putting substances in my body. But I was like, I need this. I need something to help me feel better. And I didn't want, you know, alcohol or some other, you know, marijuana or some other substance, because I know that can be kind of a dangerous path, and I've got kind of a history of alcoholism in my family. So I didn't really want to self-medicate in that way. I was like, I need help. My mom was so great, and she called the health center at my college, even though I had already graduated, and they got me in an emergency appointment, and I was able to see the psychiatrist, and they started me on some medication, and I'll talk about that at another point in time. And then I also started therapy. So that's kind of how it all started, and it's been a lot better since. It took a long time. I mean, it took probably, I'd say 6 months to a year to find the right combination of medications and all that kind of stuff for it to work out. And sometimes it never works out for people, and sometimes it really does, and it's hard because it's a waiting game, and it can be really hard for a lot of people, and sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes it does, sometimes you get really lucky. I mean, my first medication actually worked out pretty well, but then it wasn't doing the full effect that I thought it could, so my doctor actually added another medication on top of that. So I'm actually taking 2 antidepressants right now, and they're working wonderfully. One's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an SSRI, so that's Lexapro, and the other one is Wellbutrin, that kind of works more with dopamine and that reward and that feel-good system, the neurotransmitter in the brain. That's kind of my story. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I love talking about this stuff. I think that mental health and mental illness is being able to share your story is incredible. I love hearing other people's stories. It always inspires me, and I know that a lot of people struggle with it, but they're too afraid to come out and talk about it, and they may not know what they're experiencing and why they're feeling a certain way. And also just things that I experience too, on top of not only like just the cloud of, you know, sorrow and hopelessness, but I also I lost a lot of weight. I'm like 5'6", almost 5'6", and I was like 104 pounds, which is rather small. I was like 115 was kind of like my baseline, and so I lost like 11 pounds, and like that was kind of scary. I was like, oh my god, I'm really tiny. I didn't realize how and I'm 24. At that time I was 22, a 22-year-old wearing 104 pounds, 5'6". I was like, that's kind of small. So that was something too. I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't sleep at night. I'd wake up and like have panic attacks. I had all these nightmares all the time. I couldn't concentrate. That's another big issue, difficulty concentrating. I just had so many lurking thoughts, so many fears, so many worries. I was looking through like the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and the symptoms just like totally aligned with what I was experiencing, and I didn't know for the longest time what it was, and I kept denying it and was like, no, I'm fine, no, I'm fine. But then, you know, I came to the realization that, you know, the depression and anxiety are real disorders. You know, they may be mental in nature or psychiatric, but they are physical. You know, your brain it's an entity, it's a physical part of your body, and you know, some people just don't produce enough serotonin or whatever it may be about dopamine, or, you know, so it is definitely a chemical issue, and it definitely is very real, and you just kind of have to embrace it as nothing's wrong with you. It's just that your brain is wired a little differently. It took a while, but at some degree, when you're kind of in that crisis stage, you'll do anything. You'll do anything to start feeling better. When things are bad, you're like, you know, I don't care. You just want to start feeling better, and you're like, whatever, screw the stigma. That's kind of how I was. Screw the stigma. I just need to get better, and I need to be feeling better, because this is not normal, and this is not who I am. And I felt like I completely lost myself too. That was another thing. I was like, I don't know who I am. I didn't recognize myself. I'd look in the mirror and I didn't even know who I was. And I think just it was a combination of a lot of different things, you know, past traumatic experiences, social isolation, school ending, just a lot of stress kind of coming all at once that really brought up the whole anxiety and depression. And it's true, that can manifest a lot of times. Mental illness manifests itself in, you know, people's early 20s or in their late teen years. I hope this inspires some of you and helps you know that you're not alone, and that if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, that you get help, because you are important and you do matter and you deserve to live. It's sad no one should have to feel so isolated and feel alone, but unfortunately we do. Just kind of go day by day, take it one day at a time, keep breathing, be easy with yourself, be gentle with yourself, and just keep doing the best you can. It's not easy. So I'd love to know your story, and, you know, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye! One other thing, if you are feeling suicidal, or you are feeling, you know, a sense of hopelessness, or, you know, lack of interest in activities, you're feeling tired, you're moody, you're irritable, you're angry, you're having trouble sleeping, you can't really concentrate, you're having appetite changes, talk to someone, because it could be a number of things. It could be depression, it could be you know, a thyroid disorder, or any other medical condition. So it's really important to get it checked out. If you're just not feeling well, if you're not feeling right, if just something seems off, go talk to your doctor, talk to someone, and get that help that you so deserve. And I know it can be scary, I know it can be really hard to take that step, and I know that there's so much stigma in the society around it, and, you know, we label depressed people as dangerous and all that kind of stuff. But I think, you know, ultimately getting the treatment that you need is what's most important, despite what society says and despite what everyone thinks, because it's ultimately your life, and you deserve to be happy, and you deserve to have all the wonders that you can experience, and, you know, just enjoy the wonders and the beauties of life. And I know it's hard, and it seems like, oh my gosh, I can't even the flowers are beautiful, but I can't even see them, or I can't even smell them because you're just so in this cloud, and it's really scary and it's hard and you just want to disappear. But do get that help if you're feeling that way, and do reach out. And likewise, if you're having a lot of anxiety, kind of along in the same spectrum, reach out, because it could be you have anxiety, or it could be something else. So really important to talk to your providers if you're not feeling well. Definitely take care of yourself. You deserve the best out of life. So I hope this helps. All right, bye.